Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Analysis. Up for analysis today is Devastator. Devastator is the muscle in Malaire's team of supervillains. He has an extraordinary strength and he's great at obeying commands, but once he sets his eyes on a target, he's so blinded by fear that he's incapable of stopping. And so here we have Devastator, the newest and latest magic legendary monster, and I'm curious, what do you guys think, just based on this monster design, what do you think he's going to be? When I first saw him, I thought, just like the description says, he's going to be the muscle. He's going to be a strong magic attacker. My biggest fear was that he's also going to be slow. He's going to be kind of tanky. He was going to have a taunt skill, a shield. Well, we're going to see if that was true or not. So, skipping right into the stats, this monster boasts a power of 3531. In the magic category, there are currently 45 magic legendary monsters, and a power like this puts this monster tied for 4th place, tied with Scar the Outcast, that's right, the VIP monster. The only monsters that have a higher power stat than both Devastator and Scar in the magic category are Worker Hulk, who boasts a power of 3619, Malaire, who has a power of 3553, and Privateer Morgan, who has a power of 3542. And of those monsters I mentioned, I will say that Malaire and Privateer Morgan, they're quite formidable magic attackers. They have a good speed stat and a good life stat. And so with that said, let's actually move on to the life stat. Devastator has a life stat of 30,461. In the magic category, this actually puts him tied for 13th place with monsters like Baron Trader and Egg Eater. And so it's definitely still above average. Compared to like Malaire and Privateer Morgan, which I mentioned, Devastator does have a higher life stat than those monsters. Malaire has 27,445 and Privateer Morgan has 29,556. Even Worker Hulk only has a life stat of 26k. So comparing those monsters, which are like the main strong attackers in the magic category, I would say Devastator definitely takes it. Moving into the speed stat, he does suffer a little here, 3388. Well, maybe more than a little. This actually puts him tied for 38th place with Monster Clutch. That's right, there's 45 magic legendary monsters, and this speed stat definitely makes Devastator one of the slower magic monsters. However, you can argue that's not necessarily a bad thing, especially when you look at the team structure. Normally you have a deny monster to immobilize the enemy monster, then if you have an attacker, you can also run a supporter, and that support monster can maybe buff your attacker, maybe do double damage and increased accuracy, maybe do an extra turn skill to give it an immediate turn. There are so many different combos you can pull off when you have a slow attacker because of the support monster if you can deny first. So typically the way you want to do it is that you can give your attacker a speed and 2 strength, maybe a speed, a team speed and a strength, maybe 2 team speed and a strength. It all depends on the level of the monster, the level of your runes, the level of the opponents you're facing. So many different factors to consider. But I just want to make sure everyone doesn't discount this monster just because he appears to be pretty slow. Because keep in mind, he's not there to go first. He's not even there to go second. All you need for this monster is to make sure he gets an attack in. And if he does, he can pack a punch. And of course, we're going to get into the skills. Before that, I have to boast about the trait. He has Hardened and he's immune to possession. Typically, what sucks about having a slow attacker is that they are so susceptible to getting denied. Maybe they're going to get stunned, maybe they're going to get frozen, or worst of all, they're going to get possessed. And if your slow attacker is possessed, when they get their turn in, they're going to deal some hefty damage on your team. Well, Devastator doesn't have that issue because he cannot be possessed. And on top of that, he just has the Hardened trait, which makes it so 20% of the time he's not going to get hit with any negative effect. So even if he's slow, even if the enemy monster goes first and does a freeze or a stun, there's a chance it's going to miss, which means Devastator is going to get that turn in and attack the enemy team. So quite a powerful monster in terms of trait and the fact that he can pack a punch. You know, Malaire's immune to possession, which is pretty great in the magic category. Privateer Morgan has Hardened, which is also really great. Worker Hulk's not even worth mentioning because he's super slow. He has 23k speed and he's immune to blind, so he can easily be possessed, stunned, frozen, whatever. Malaire can be stunned and frozen. Privateer Morgan 20% of the time can't be denied. But Devastator has the Hardened and the immunity to possession, so he takes the best from Malaire, Privateer Morgan. He has the high life, he has a pretty good power compared to those two. It's just slightly lower, right? Like I said, Malaire has like 20 extra attack points, Privateer Morgan has 10 extra points, so do not count Devastator out and just wait until we get into the skills. Lastly, he can hold the Armor Relic and the Mask. So the Armor Relic, this makes his monster even more tanky. And then the Mask Relic, that's the one I mostly want to talk about. With the Mask Relic, there's some different things you can do. If you have the Energy Mask, you can recover stamina points if you've been attacked. With a Healing Mask, you can recover some life, further increasing your tankiness. You can also remove stamina from the enemy monster if you were hit. And if you're fortunate enough to have the Diamond Relic, which is arguably one of the worst Diamond Relics, however, for an attacker, it's not that bad because even at level 1, it increases your monster's strength by 720 points. And up to the point where you max it up, it can increase your monster's strength up to 2,520 points for one turn. But I mean, Like I said, if you partner this monster up with a support monster that gives you double damage, increased accuracy, your Balthazar's Mask Relic kicks in and it's maxed out, your monster, if he has a strong AoE, he's going to pack a punch, he's going to devastate the enemy team, which I think is absolutely perfect for a monster called Devastator. So with that said, let's move on to his skills. His ultimate skill is called Small Jump, deals massive special damage to all enemies. Honestly, that's all this monster needs. 70 special base damage to all of the enemy monsters. Considering his high attack power, considering you're going to run strength runes, that's pretty much going to guarantee to kill the enemy monsters. And if for some reason they happen to stay alive, guess what? They're going to be immobilized because you're also going to stun. And if that's not enough, you're also going to apply burning. Somehow this monster just jumping, doing a small little jump, stuns your monsters and burns your monsters, the enemy monsters. And if the enemy monsters don't die from the 70 damage, they're most likely going to die from the burning. Because keep in mind, they're going to be burned and stunned one turn. And so it's going to be until the second turn they get to attack. And by that second turn, they're going to lose an additional 15% of their life. So for this monster, Small Jump is a really great ultimate. Moving on to skills group 1, I only really want to talk about Museum Crusher. Deals heavy magic damage to one enemy, 45 damage, 25 stamina cost, no cooldown. The only reason I'm mentioning this skill is because you never know when it's to your benefit to run a 0 cooldown skill. There are so many monsters that can do cooldowns activated. You know, Timerion being the most famous one, he made cooldowns activated famous. Considering Timerion is a metal monster and Devastator is a magic monster, against him you would have a magic elemental advantage, so your 45 damage would be 50% stronger. So it's still a skill you can utilize, and then even against other monsters, right? It's just useful to have a skill and to be able to use it than to not be able to use something. So don't count out Museum Crusher. And then Healing Tears, it's a 30% heal with the 1 turn cooldown, not worth it. Maw Burner, 40 damage, no cooldown, 50% chance of doing Ignition. This potentially could be better if Ignition did land 100% of the time. You know, there's a bug with 50% skills, but specifically in the case against the Timerion, it obviously wouldn't be effective against him because you can't apply negative effects to Timerion. So Museum Crusher, Maw Burner, just don't count those skills out without seeing how often you run into cooldowns activated monsters, because there's so many of them. You know, just off the top of my head, even the magic category has Chrysandre, she can do cooldowns activated. Montezuma in the earth category can do cooldowns activated. Even I think Pigredo has like a one target cooldowns activated. So just be careful for monsters that can do cooldowns activated. With that being said, on to skills group 2 we go. Maw Record deals very heavy magic damage to an enemy, requires cooldown. 55 damage, 25 stamina cost, 1 turn cooldown. I personally don't think this skill is worth it. And you know, just comparing this to skills group 1, you're trading 10 damage for a 1 turn cooldown. Is that really worth it? I think it depends on the player. Personally, I really think it's just better to be prepared, so I would go with the Museum Crusher just to have a skill to use in case I'm facing an enemy monster that can activate my cooldowns. Next up we have Healing Rage. Heals itself by 25%, applies regeneration to itself, requires cooldown. So we have a healing skill, a self-healing skill on an attacker. Very interesting. So you heal by 25 and you give yourself regeneration. So definitely a really great healing skill. It further adds to this monster's tankiness. However, I personally am not the biggest fan. If I have an attacker, I want his main purpose just to be attacking. I'll leave the healing and the support to my support monster, to my treachery monster. So I personally think you can do without Healing Rage. Next up we have Station Burner. Deals heavy magic damage to an enemy, applies Ignite to an enemy, requires cooldown. 50 damage, 25 stamina cost, 1 turn cooldown. So 50 damage plus Ignition. This I like because Ignition lasts for 2 turns and takes away 20% of the enemy's HP. Now, when comparing this to Maw Wrecker, you gotta ask yourself, is it worth to deal 5 more damage but not do Ignition? Or is it worth to deal 5 less damage and apply Ignition? Personally, the answer is clear to me. Station Burner is way better because that Ignition, you know, it really capitalizes on when the enemy monster is tanky. You know, if you fight an Oros, that Ignition is gonna do way more than that 5 extra damage on Maw Wrecker. If you fight any monster, you know, if they just go within 20% of their life, the Ignition is gonna kill them. So from skills group 2, I would personally recommend Station Burner. And with that said, we can move on to skills group 3. School Destroyer deals massive magic damage to an enemy, requires cooldown. 70 magic based damage to a single enemy monster, only a 28 stamina cost, 2 turn cooldown. But hey, what can I say? 70 damage, that is pretty much guaranteed to OTK whatever enemy monster you target that isn't magic based. And if they're metal based, it's especially going to kill them. So be sure to run School Destroyer, this is your must have skill. Next up is Beast Triggered, removes all negative stat effects from itself, applies regeneration and damage boost to itself. So once again, I'm not the biggest fan of these self skills on attackers that set up like this. Once again, I would rather leave the support to my support monster. I don't need him to set up. However, I do like Beast Triggered definitely way more than Healing Rage for the fact that it removes negative effects. I think that's so much more significant than just healing yourself immediately by 25%. Once again, this monster has armor that can protect him. This monster has a mask, that the healing mask, if you give it to him, they could also protect him. So you don't really need healing rage to immediately heal you by 25%. I think your relics can take care of that if you choose to do so. What I like about Beast Triggered is primarily that it removes negative effects. Meaning, if you have some sort of DOT, you know, DOTs are some of the best ways to get rid of tanky monsters. You get rid of that DOT, get rid of that ignition, that burn, that whatever it may be. If you're blinded, if you're dazed, if you're total blinded, whatever, rather than wasting an attack or rather than just recharging, you can give yourself the self skill that will also give you damage boost, which will set up for the next turn, and also give you life regeneration, which will further increase your survivability. So given the context of what this monster has and everything, I do like Beast Triggered, and I will be recommending Beast Triggered. Next up we have Hospital Burner, which is your other must-have skill. Moderate magic damage to all enemies, applies ignite, sorry, I always say ignition, applies ignite to all enemies, requires cooldown. 40 magic base damage, 33 stamina cost, 3 turn cooldown, AoE ignite. How beautiful is that? This monster, like I said, can pack a punch. If you set him up with a support monster that can give him double damage and increased accuracy, you now have a monster that's doing Hospital Burner, which is essentially 80 magic base damage plus ignition. And once again, if you give him, if you're fortunate to have Balthazar's mask and you level it up, he can definitely pack a punch. He can be so powerful. He can like pretty much OTK everyone, especially metal monsters. Probably not so much magic monsters, but even against magic monsters, he'll apply ignite and he'll still pack quite a bunch. So Devastator, for sure run Hospital Burner, for sure run Skull Destroyer. This is definitely OTK. If you can partner this up with a monster that can give him double damage and increase accuracy, Hospital Burner is even OTK. For his other skills, run Beast Triggered and run Station Burner. That's my personal preference. I think that's the best skill set. Once again, you could also choose to run Museum Crusher just to have some sort of anti-cooldowns activated skill. If you want to run Museum Crusher, then I think you should decide between getting rid of Station Burner or maybe Beast Triggered. That's totally up to you. Decide whatever you think works best for you. Once again, for runes on this monster, I think you go the typical attacker rune setup. Give him 2 strength and a team speed, or 2 strength and a speed. Maybe give him 1 strength and 2 team speed, or 1 strength, a speed, and a team speed. It's hard to give you a generalization because it really depends on you, your player level, the kind of league you're in, the kind of opponents you're facing. Are they ranked up? Are they around your level? So many factors to consider. But typically what you want to do with this monster is to have a deny monster go first, have a support monster that has team speed, have this monster with the team speed. That's probably the best, right? 3 speed on your deny monster, 3 speed on your support monster, 1 team speed on Devastator, or 2 team speed, depending how good your strength rune is. For example, if you have a level 10 strength rune, I think you can get away with 1 level 10 strength rune on Devastator, 2 team speed, 3 team speed on your support monster. That way you have a total of 5 team speed, supplementing your deny monster. That way your deny monster goes first and denies. You don't have to worry about the enemy monsters. Your support monster buffs Devastator, and then you do Hospital Burner and literally watch them all burn. So Devastator, I like the monster a lot, surprisingly. I actually like all of the supervillain monsters. I think they're great in their own way. Regardless of whether or not you can use them, that's a different story. But I definitely do like Devastator, and I want to hear from all of you guys. What do you guys think about this monster? Do you like him? Do you dislike him? How do you think he compares to the other magic attackers? To Malaire, to Privateer Morgan, even to Scar the Outcast and to Rabuka? Those are other attackers I didn't really talk about. How do you think he compares to them? How do you think he's going to do in his books, in Evil Legions, and Superheroes, in the magic category? Whatever thoughts are going on through your guys' head, let me know in the comments below. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Really hope it was helpful, and I will see you all next time.